They say the camera never lies, but maybe not anymore. Now we can all change our looks at the touch of a button with a filter. And that is creating what one British MP calls a digitally warped reality. Is this actually dangerous? You're watching Roundtable. Well, today we're going to be hearing from the woman who started the campaign Filter Drop, which has led to a possible new law being adopted in the UK Parliament.
With a swipe of your finger, your pictures on social media can be brighter, give you fuller lips and bigger eyes. Filters have become a way to alter pictures, especially for those in the public eye on social media. However, some have come out to criticise the use of filters and the unrealistic standards it sets for beauty and products online. UK-based makeup artist and model Sasha Pallari has created the hashtag FilterDrop to fight back against unrealistic beauty standards on social media. British MP Luke Evans has proposed the Digitally Altered Body Image Bill, which would require advertisers and publishers to display a logo whenever a person's face or body has been digitally enhanced. A recent survey carried out by charity Girl Guiding found a third of girls and young women will not post selfies online without using a filter to change their appearance. 39% of the 1,473 respondents aged 11 to 21 said they felt upset that they could not look the same in real life as they did online. With the negative effects social media filters are having on self-image, is it time to drop the filters?
Well, time to say hello to Sasha Pallari, makeup artist and self-described curve model who started this ball rolling with the campaign Filter Drop. Then there's Beth Dunlavey, who calls herself a social media influencer and says she does touch up pics but tells her followers that she does so. And finally, Dr. Quinn-Cirillo, a psychologist who will examine why people do it. Great to have you on the programme, each and every one of you. Let me ask you, Sasha, first of all, were you surprised at how this has taken off with the law going through Parliament, with the Girl Guide movement worldwide saying something needs to be done about it?
Yes, absolutely. Although I'm not sure if my campaign is connected to the law, I just think that it's a very hot topic at the moment and everything's perhaps happened in one go. And it's been supported in those ways. But yeah, I am very shocked at the speed in which it kind of exploded.
But pleased?
Very pleased, very, very pleased, yes.
For what particular reasons?
I think this Filter Drop is an extension of what I believe in and the way that I want women to feel online and in their everyday life. And it was heightened throughout lockdown with us all being on our phones and an awful lot more. But actually, the messaging that I have been trying to promote has been going on for like 4 years. So for me, everything that's happened with this campaign is literally everything I've ever dreamed of because it's reaching more and more women every day.
And you reckon it's foolhardy, dangerous, or what?
So the filters that I'm predominantly talking about are the face changing and face morphing filters. So they're the ones that is an overlay onto your screen and it can morph the shape of your face. So you can have cheek filler, you can have a slim down nose, lip filler. There are an endless list of things that can happen to your face when these certain filters are applied. And those are the filters that I am talking about when I started Filter Drop. And for that reason, I can't see any positive of them being on social media whatsoever. I just think they are beyond damaging in so many ways.
Tara, beyond damaging, I wondered at the top of the programme whether it could be dangerous. What are your thoughts as a psychologist?
I think it's when we cross that line between having some fun, playing around with filters, which I'm sure we all do at some point, putting some bunny ears on, some sparkles, changing the light. So when you then feel you have to be defined by the way you look, so you're physically changing your appearance, and whether then you may get hooked with having to then define yourself and always look like that. And when it then sometimes crosses over into reality and people are wanting to change their actual physical features through surgery, through other techniques, enhancements.
Yeah, the Girl Guiding Advocate panel, 14 to 25, says increasingly it is younger girls who are wanting to do this and their self-esteem is affected.
Yes, yeah. It's a very vulnerable age as well. And one of the things, I suppose, as the generations move forward, social media is more accessible now. People have phones, tablets, younger and younger. So they're being surrounded by these images. They're a lot more freely available. And I guess one of the concerns is if we're normalizing a certain type of look, what are young girls trying to achieve and live up to? And how much pressure perhaps are they under logistically, metaphorically, in order to achieve a certain look?
Right. Okay. I know you say you do it, Beth. You do it on a regular basis on your blogs, on your Instagram feeds. Do you accept that it is perhaps damaging in some way or not?
Absolutely. I think I echo what's just been said. I think that they're great for a little bit of fun. In particular, the grainy filters, the filters who, kind of make it more artistic and creative. But the filters that completely warp your face and change everything about your features, I think really are quite damaging. And those are the filters that I would stay away from. I most certainly wouldn't use a filter on my grid posts. For me, I like to use them on stories where it's clearly stated at the top, this is used with X filter. And I think when there's transparency there, then it's kind of okay. It shouldn't be used constantly, and I'm very open and honest with my audience with if I filter my pictures or if I use a filter on my stories. But at the same time, I won't use it consistently. And I think that's where the problem's coming from, where people are using filters and then feeling like they've got no choice but to continue using them because they don't like what they see without the filter.
You see, I went on your site yesterday. I signed up as one of your followers, and I was looking for this little message that said it had been digitally altered, but I couldn't find it anywhere. And it's a bit like reading the small print, isn't it, in any kind of agreement? You've got to look for it rather than it staring you in the face and saying, this has been changed.
Yeah, I completely agree. So if you're a user of Instagram and you do use filters, you will know that when a filter is used on a story, right at the top, it will say created with X filter. However, if a photo is edited and uploaded onto your grid, there is nothing on there to say this has been edited or tweaked or kind of enhanced, which is where I think Instagram could maybe change their settings. So if people do enhance their pictures in any way, which is their prerogative, it's clearly stated for people to see and realise that actually this isn't 100% reality.
Equally, you could write something underneath every picture that you post.
Yeah, I mean, I could, but I also think not every single picture I post is edited, for a start. And secondly, if I feel I want to blur a little imperfection out, or if I want to make the colours more brighter and pop a little bit more, I feel I shouldn't have to write that as a disclaimer, but it is something that I always talk about on my stories with my followers. And if somebody messages me and asks, I would always say yes. I think it's important to be transparent, but also I don't want to drum it into people like I am using a bit of a filter here, or I have changed the contrast on this picture. I feel if Instagram could change their settings so that it would be just like stories where it shows if it's been edited or used by a filter, if they could do that on grid, it would be perfect.
So somebody else's responsibility.
I think it's a joint approach. I think it's Instagram's responsibility. I think it's also the education system's responsibility. I think it would be really useful in PSHE. I come from an education background. My career was in education before I started influencing. I think it would be really beneficial if on the curriculum there was maybe elements of this is what social media is. These are the realities of social media. Because as a 30-year-old woman, I can go on Instagram, look at people's images and realise that, yeah, they have been enhanced, and that won't bother me or my self-esteem. But 14-year-old Beth probably wouldn't have been able to cope with that. So I absolutely, completely agree and kind of echo what Sasha's doing. And, the filter drop is such an amazing, and important and needed campaign. But at the same time, I think some people do just enjoy filtering their photos a little bit. So it's almost like a bit of a balancing act. It's hard.
I don't want to put you on trial here, but thank you so much for coming on and giving that side of it. I'm going to come back and ask you in a few minutes what kind of responsibility you think you have to younger people. Yeah. But I'm going to throw this one at Tara, if I may. Max Malik, cosmetic doctor at what's called the Cosmetic Clinic. He said younger and younger people are coming to him and asking for cosmetic surgery. These filters and edits have become the norm. altering people's perception of beauty worldwide. I'll miss a bit out. They can have a significant impact on a patient's self-esteem. At the age of 13, you're not only not fully developed physically, but the mental ramifications of this can be detrimental.
Absolutely. I think what Beth was saying actually was spot on. There's a difference, isn't there, between being self-aware that you are posting things and changing things, and that automatic behavior where there are quite a lot of people on social media who will do those several clicks without even consciously recognizing that they're doing it, and therefore defining themselves in a way that's so innate. It's quite difficult to change. And if we've got young people that are starting so young, 13, 14, and looking at wanting to change their facial appearance and their bodily appearance in some cases as well, we need to get in early with those people to try and help them to be aware of their own bodies, of their self-esteem, their self-worth. And I think Beth's main point about being really aware, how can we help people to be aware and present when they're doing those clicks is probably a really good starting point. But also just helping people to understand that your face does change, that everybody is different, and then that's okay. And the world might be a bit of a boring place if we all have exactly the same features and we're surrounded with the same images.
Sorry, I just wanted to just address one of the things that Beth said about the stories, because one of the problems that I noticed with when I started the campaign is that it does show it in the top left-hand corner, but not if you download it and re-upload it. And that is one of the other big problems with these filters, is that they're so subtle and they're so believable that they're not always stated. Obviously, Beth is taking responsibility as an influencer and she is doing that. And I think maybe the fact that she doesn't even know that exists shows that she is being genuinely transparent with her platform, which is great. But there are also plenty of people who are downloading their content with a story, with a filter applied, re-uploading it to their story, which is then not stated. So there's thousands and millions of people watching these stories thinking, oh my gosh, she's absolutely beautiful, her skin is flawless, how does she look like that? But it's not real at all. So that was just one thing that I wanted to, I didn't know whether I could interject them, but yeah, it's...
Of course you can. Anytime you want. I just wanted to ask you, Sasha, as a makeup artist, you alter people's appearance. So what's the difference?
With makeup, there's always a reality, and my clientele over the last few years has definitely changed in some ways. And my reasoning for wanting to do all of this change within the beauty industry was because it didn't sit comfortably with me to have somebody walk through my door, show me a picture of Kim Kardashian and expect me to recreate that on their face. It was never something I enjoyed, and that's not the reason why I enjoy makeup. I enjoy makeup for the colour theory of it, the textures of it, the artistic, creative skills of it. And over the years, I moved away from that kind of work, and everyone who sits in my chair, it's all just about enhancing their features and making them feel amazing, because makeup is an instant hit of confidence, the same way that putting on your favorite outfit is, or the same way that driving your favorite car is. It's always like an added little thing for you personally, and makeup can do that. But there is always a reality with makeup, and there aren't those realities online.
Beth, I promised you that you could interrupt at any time, and then when you did, I said, please don't. But do carry on now.
It's okay. No, I just wanted to respond to what Sasha said. I didn't actually realise, she's right, that if you download your filtered image, that when you re-upload it doesn't have that statement at the top. I didn't realise that. So thank you for telling me that. That's not something that I would do. But equally, in saying that, it does make sense that people might download their filtered image and then upload it to their grid post and make it seem like that is genuinely what they look like. And now that I find very damaging, and I think that's where the problem stems from, really.
Yeah.
So we've got this MP, this British MP called Dr. Luke Evans, who says he wants to have a law declaring digitally altered photos on social media. And also the Girl Guides have said exactly the same thing. Do we need a law? Beth?
I think it would make my job a lot easier, because if I choose to edit a photo, so like I say, I'm very subtle with it. I will openly admit if I've got a blemish and I'm going to upload a photo to my grid, I will, if I'm feeling like I want to, edit it out a little bit. I would never edit my face, my body, I wouldn't edit any any of my physical features, but I might smooth out a little bit of a blemish. Now, for me, I probably should now on reflection say, just to let you all know, I've edited this little blemish out. And I do that at times, but I don't do it every time. If Instagram had some feature that would allow, I don't know, some technology that would pick up this is being edited, that for me would be perfect, because nobody could get away with it then. Because at the minute, I'll openly say I've edited this photo. I won't say it on everyone, because I just think people will get sick and bored of that. But some people won't admit and will actually deny using a filter. And then that's where there's like warped vision and people don't know what they're saying. And is it real? Is it not real? And that's when young people then end up thinking, I want to look a certain way, but they don't know what they want to look like, because they don't know what's real and what's not real. Whereas if it was low, you would know that, yeah, okay, that girl's pretty, but she's edited her image and that's probably why she looks so enhanced.
So, Tara, what is it that people want to look like?
I think, well, we're surrounded at the moment with certain types of looks. There are a couple of filters that I understand Instagram removed over the last year or so, that literally made you look like you'd have plastic surgery, and it's a certain kind of look. So when people are uploading images, they begin to look the same, as I've mentioned before. So if people are surrounded by those as norms, they're trying to achieve something that's inachievable. It's not something that we
But it's a funny old world, isn't it? Because if you walk down the street and children go to school, children walk down the street, they don't see people that look like that. Surely they would understand. No? Too young?
I think it's a different world, isn't it, from you being sat in your bedroom as a 14-year-old, 13-year-old and looking at all these images and walking down the street. Pandemic is a really good example. I think someone brought that up earlier, that actually people are spending more time on their devices during lockdown, more time playing around with filters. So that is going to dominate more than the average person that you're walking down the street with. Beth made a really good point, actually. There is something around autonomy, isn't there, that you should have the right to want to change some things about the way you look, play around artistically, and getting that balance between having a law to try and protect people's emotional well-being and perhaps to stop this snowballing even further, but also at the same time just protecting that autonomy, that right to be able to choose how you present yourself. It is a really tricky one. There's no magic dividing line, but I think it is really important that we don't undermine people's autonomy. You need to get a balance between self-regulating people's behaviour but doing some good education around it, and perhaps having some barriers to help people do that, like declaring filters that are being used.
Before I say anything else, who would like to add to that? Go on, there you go.
Realistically, this has been happening for years and years and years and years. As a child or as a teenager, I used to buy Cosmopolitan, OK Magazine, all of Vogue, stuff like that, and all of those images were photoshopped. They all were digitally enhanced. And I was looking at the models thinking, wow, that's what I want to look like. Perfection, in my opinion. The difference between that and Instagram is I would shut that magazine and I would put it to one side and that would be it. Whereas today, young people are on their Instagram or on any of their social media and they're scrolling for pretty much 8, 9, 10 hours a day. So they're seeing those beauty ideals, which are unrealistic, if they are edited images constantly. Therefore it's going to get deeper into their subconscious mind, and then they're just going to feel
but why put them
about
out
themselves
there if they're unrealistic?
Well, like I say, I don't use those filters where it completely changes your face. I think they're absolutely ridiculous, and I've said on my story before, it makes me look like an alien because I've tried it for a joke before. But some people do use those, and that is not real life. And I can see that that's not real life, but I've got a lot of life experience. A 13, 14-year-old might not. The pictures that I put out are me, but just enhanced a little bit, sometimes not at all. Whereas the filtered pictures, where people have the catfish filter, I call it, it's just not even their face. It's almost a mask.
Yeah, you see, I'm wondering, Sasha, and also Tara, but Sasha first on this one. Who is it who's told these young people that the looks that Beth has been describing, which she says are unachievable, are attractive in the first place?
Well, I think what Beth said about the magazines and things like that, it's natural that we're going to be looking up to women who are put on the front cover of a magazine. However, when it comes to Instagram and our own social channels, my argument is that we have the choice there. So I have a choice to go onto my stories without makeup on, with my acne scarring on show, and I have the choice to show that to my followers. Whereas if I was booked as a model for a photo shoot and I was booked as a model and not Sasha, then it's a lot more out of my control. I mean, obviously I have the control over what jobs I would take and turn down, but to a certain extent. So these young girls are growing up looking at these unattainable images, thinking that that's realistic to achieve. And the reason why it isn't is because even when you think there's transparency, and even when you think that people are being honest with how they are on social media, we're still looking at a highlighted reel on social media. Even me, and I'm a very honest person on Instagram, all of my friends will tell anybody that I'm exactly the same online. I still would not pick up the phone and start filming myself, you know, when I'm really upset or when something awful has happened. It's still very much a highlight reel.
But can I ask you this one? Has there not been some sort of movement away from altering images? I'm thinking you describe yourself as a curve model, whereas 25 years ago, everybody presumably had to be stick thin. You're now saying, hang on, you know, I'm proud of the fact that I'm not a stick thin model. This is who I am. And this is just sort of what we're talking about today is just one side of it. In a way, it has moved away from perfection.
Yeah, it's definitely improved. I mean, for instance, what you just said, I wouldn't have been a model back, you know, 25 years ago. I wouldn't have been allowed to be, because I am above a size 12 and a size, I think even for mainstream fashion modeling, you need to be a size 8. So there's no way I would ever be considered a model in that sense. And I don't give myself the name of a curve model. That is just what I'm categorized in within my agency. So I'm with 2 agencies, and on both boards, I'm on the curve board. I'm not on the mainstream board, and I never would be. So I am very proud of, you know, my body, in that sense that it is perhaps bigger than the standard ideal of body shapes. But I do think that it's, aside from that, it's important for all women of all shapes and sizes to feel confident in their own skin, and that is ultimately what I am trying to achieve.
Well, that's brilliant. Tara, I'm going to read something from Elle magazine, and it goes like this. Among the various expensive bag-toting, cocktail-sipping, flat-tummy, ab-flaunting Instagram girls that I follow, I can feel a certain level of nagging jealousy. The real problem with this kind of self-hatred is that all it's really masking is admiration, witnessing the life of someone you think seems like one of your people, and turning that into a threat, a fear, something negative. How do you get rid of that negativity?
That's really difficult, isn't it? Because I think fear was one of the words I was going to bring up, that sometimes if we're fearing rejection and we're being surrounded by people who get a certain number of likes, certain number of followers due to the way they look and what they post, then if you're someone who's starting out in that world, if you're a teenager beginning to post and you're getting just a little bit of reinforcement, 1 or 2 likes on the way you look, if you've altered your image, it's going to reinforce that. So it's very difficult to move away from it, going back to those kind of core values around self-esteem and self-worth, but getting that balance, that self-esteem and self-worth, it's okay to change your blemish, and it might be okay to change the light behind you. So I think we don't want to totally strip away people's ability to feel good about the way they look and the different ways they achieve that. So, you know, HD makeup isn't that different from taking a blemish off, using a certain type of filter, but it's when you're starting to morph your face that's difficult. But
don't we need to give people
self-esteem and
don't they need to take responsibility for themselves here, rather than being told by law, or, as Beth has suggested, making Instagram responsible for stating that something's been changed? Don't people just need to think for themselves?
I think both, actually. In terms of what we're being faced with, it's taken a long time for this industry to build up and for this issue to become the issue it is today. So that's not going to change overnight. So what we need is almost a top-down approach where you've got MPs discussing it, some kind of boundaries around filters being used and advertising when you've used a filter, but also, as you said, addressing it from the bottom up. So telling people how to look after themselves, how to be positive around the way they look, helping people to be self-aware of why they're changing it and what they look like. And perhaps giving people examples of how you can perhaps move away from that habitual nature of changing how you look, perhaps having a bit of a gap from social media, perhaps just altering 1 or 2 things and seeing how you feel when you look at it.
If only it were possible. Beth, let me ask you.
Some people have already started that, haven't they? There are some people in the
that would
media
be
who
good.
started to do that. Yeah.
Beth, let me ask you, Sasha, thank you very much for being on the programme. Good luck with your campaign, but we've come into the end. And I want to ask you, Beth, as somebody who does filter, as you said, in fact, everybody on this programme has said they use some kind of changes. But let me ask you, if, as a so-called influencer, is there anything you're going to change with regard to this conversation?
I think for me, I will continue to do what I always do. I go on my Instagram stories with makeup, without makeup. Just like I leave the house with makeup and without makeup, I'm confident in my own skin. I will continue to use filters, not the ones that warp your face, but the little grainy, creative, artistic types, if I want or if I see fit. But I will also use them with caution and also make sure that when I do edit photos, that I am very open and honest about it. I think for me, I'm very transparent with my audience. My audience really enjoy the fact that I am open and honest about it. And I think the more honest we are about the filters that we use, the easier it's going to be for young people to understand them and maybe not use them as much themselves.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Beth, Sasha, Tara. Much appreciated your time on this programme. That's all we have time for on this edition of Roundtable from a digitally unaltered, well, to some extent, David Foster. And from the team that put all this together, it's goodbye for now. Hope to have your company next time. Bye-bye.